Hello and welcome everybody to the first Palm Beach Atlantic Social Enterprise Conference in collaboration with Helped Hope. My name is Philip Higgins. I'm a student at PBA and co-organizer of this event. I will also be your MC for the day. Please enjoy the food we have in the back, sponsored by the Quantum Foundation and catered by Joshua Cafe, a social enterprise of the Lord's Place. If you are joining us on the live stream, please make sure to follow us on Facebook, our website, sosentconf.com, and on Twitter, @HelpedHope. If you're taking pictures today, please tag our Instagram, @sosentconf. And now to get us started, please help me in welcoming PBA President Bill Fleming.
Good morning and welcome on this beautiful Palm Beach Atlantic University day. Aren't we fortunate? Aren't we blessed? Where else would you rather be than right here with this amazing group of social entrepreneurs? Oftentimes when we gather as groups at Palm Beach Atlantic University, I like to start by saying that this is a serious conversation for serious thinkers. And then often I just pause so that those people who are in the wrong room may leave. But I don't see anyone exiting this morning, which means that you are here for serious purposes and you are a serious thinker in our civil society. So we thank you for your attendance and your intention on this intentional conference. Before I say anything more, would you join me in congratulating the entrepreneurs who launched the idea that has brought us together in this first conference? May we congratulate them together. Palm Beach Atlantic University is a place of faith, a place committed to free enterprise, and a special place that daily exhibits servant leadership. We're committed to free enterprise, and I believe that your presence today underscores your commitment to the preservation and promotion of free enterprise, a free society committed to enterprise, doing good in a good way for the common good. You know, as I was thinking this morning about this conference, several words immediately came to mind. Courage. You cannot be a social entrepreneur without being courageous, without having a big idea. A minute ago, I met Philip's father and I said, thank you for not saying no. Thank you for not saying why, and instead saying, why not? Think big. Be bold. Be courageous. It also is important that the entrepreneur be someone of conviction, be driven by purpose, believe in that big idea. And I think you will hear and see, witness today, an opportunity where we bring people together who are purpose-built and purpose-driven. People who have conviction. A third C, compassion. I love the word compassion because it has passion in it. But I believe that a social entrepreneur must be compassionate and exhibit their passion, their motivation, in a compassionate way. 3 C's: courage, conviction, compassion. No, there's not a 4th C. The 4th word starts with an M, and that is mentor. For a social entrepreneur to be successful, they must surround themselves with faithful mentors, people who will pour into them, people who will invest in them, stakeholders that believe in them, individuals who are people of integrity and will speak into the idea, who will speak candidly about the good and the not so good. Courage, conviction, compassion, and yes, an M for mentoring. Those are the 4 words that I, Philip, believe are critical to the foundation of this conversation led by serious thinkers surrounding this concept. Oh, how pleased we are that students of Palm Beach Atlantic University can be enterprising young adults who have a big idea and with conviction see that idea to a launching opportunity such as this morning. Welcome to the beautiful campus of 3,900 students, 16,000 alumni, with an economic impact of $370 million each year to the beautiful city of West Palm Beach. We're excited that you're here. And allow me to begin with a word of prayer. Would you join me as we give thanks for this day? Oh Lord, we do give thanks for the beauty of this new day, for the opportunity to explore new ideas, for the fellowship that we will enjoy today, enlighten our minds, enrich our friendships, and allow us to find new ways to extend our hands in service to others. Amen. We wish you well today. Look forward to seeing you and your friends next year for the 2nd annual conference. Already today I have said to Philip, I look forward to seeing you on the 25th annual conference. So you have to think big. May you be blessed with your conference today and your time on the beautiful campus of Palm Beach Atlantic. Congratulations for believing in this big idea.
Thank you, President Fleming. Thank you for that warm introduction, President Fleming. We have a lot to fit into a short amount of time, so let's get going. This morning we are going to hear from 3 different panels, followed by our keynote address. Then we will break for lunch in our Social Enterprise Trade Expo. After lunch, we will hear from 4 more panels. We are fortunate and grateful to have moderating most of our panels today, Mr. Nick Astor, CEO and founder of Triple Pundit, a leading digital news and media marketing company. Our first panel today is going to be the state of social enterprise.
Thanks so much for joining us today. My name's Nick Astor. I'm the founder and publisher of an online publication called Triple Pundit, triplepundit.com. We've been around for about 10 years, and we describe ourselves as a conversation on sustainability for business, which is sort of a little bit of a mouthful, but what it means is we talk a lot about corporate social responsibility, we talk about social enterprise, we talk about the intersection of environmental, social, and economic issues. And that's why we call it Triple. It's a reference to the idea of the triple bottom line, or people, planet, and profit, which is fundamentally a recognition that all 3 of those things are very intertwined and connected. And at the end of the day, you can't profit in one way without impacting the others. I'm going to try to keep my introduction very brief. My role today as moderator, at least the way we usually see it and the way we approach everything on Triple Pundit, is that our job is to get a conversation going, because we feel that a conversation is the beginning to any solution when it comes to these challenges that we're talking about. And so my job here, we've got just a terrific set of different topics we're going to talk about today. This morning's first panel here is going to be a little bit of an introduction to the concept. We've put social enterprise as kind of the umbrella topic for the day, so I'm going to put you guys a little bit on the spot and get you started with sort of introducing this concept and throwing out a few definitions, in addition to telling a little bit about your own stories and so on. But as I mentioned, my job here is to kind of get this conversation going, and then hopefully to involve all of you as much as possible. So we'll roll for 20, 25 minutes, something like that, and then we'll make the opportunity for you guys to ask some questions, give some comments, and so on. If for some reason you guys haven't had enough coffee, I'll keep talking. But the hope is really to cultivate a conversation throughout the day. We're probably, going to get to a third of the topics that we, could otherwise get into. Any one of these panels could probably be a whole day worth of conversation. That said, let's get started. So I want you guys just to give us a real short and sweet introduction to who you are, just so we know who we're talking to today. And Alex, do you want to start? I mean, we kind of know you, but give us just 2 seconds of background, and then we'll go with Julie and Charles after that.
All right, well, thank you, Nick. And thank you, everyone, for coming today. So I'm Alex Golding. The students approached me, and we came together to kind of work together to create this conference. And the reason I'm here is I believe that, and as many people my age believe, that I shouldn't have to take a pay cut just because I want to help, right? So I shouldn't have to sell my soul to make money. So where is that overlap? And that is what I believe is the essence of social enterprise, the hybrid between the nonprofit and the for-profit world. So to that end, we created this organization called Helped Hope. We help bring hope to the world, provide consulting, event planning around that, and we're just very excited to be here and to see this large turnout for our first conference. So thank you all.
My name is Julie Fonestock, and I call myself a sustainability storyteller. And what that really means is I help companies who have this for-profit, for-mission model, companies who are committed to social and environmental impact, who really just want to make a difference in the world, but also see an impact on their bottom line. I help them tell that unique impact story. And it's been a journey of mine, just realizing the power of stories is really, it's the most engaging thing you have is your story, and how you can use that to really create change, inspire people, and actually invite them to participate with you in your work. So, yeah.
Didn't want to have to breathe into that the whole time. So, I'm Charles Bender. I'm the executive director of Place of Hope, and we are a statewide child welfare organization, which means we take care of abused and neglected children. And I'm also the son of two small business owners, entrepreneurs. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, and I, since the day of founding, have operated Place of Hope as an entrepreneur, social entrepreneur. So it really extends into everything we do, and we serve kids, like I said, all over the state. Are we working? Mm-hmm. And then we can get into a couple of the things that we're doing that are literally on the side of social entrepreneurship in terms of business structure and so forth, some things that we're doing that are really helping us. But I would say that everything we do is entrepreneurial in nature, and it's how we've grown. In 15 years, we celebrate May 1 to the largest provider in the region of welfare services. We had to be entrepreneurial. But I just want to underscore the M that President Fleming said. I'm a big believer in mentoring, and they don't always have to be older than you. I've got the best team around of people, and most of them are younger than I am, so I believe in the M.
And Charles, now you guys are a traditional nonprofit structure.
That's
correct.
correct. Right.
And you guys are both traditional for-profit structures. Right. You're a B Corp. Are you guys a B Corp as well?
No, traditional LLC.
Traditional LLC. Okay, terrific. All right. One of the first things that you said, Alex, you talked a little bit about this idea of we're looking for this hybrid between nonprofit and for-profit. Why do you guys think we always have to sort of qualify it that way? Why do we think that somewhere in our back of our minds we still have this idea that, well, business and it's about making money, and then we've got these nice nonprofits over here that do good things and give money to people. Why do you think that exists? It seems to still exist in people's minds. And are we talking about something that's evolving that in some manner?
Well, I mean, I'm a big believer in that, yeah, it does exist, but it shouldn't exist. I'm a big believer in, for Place of Hope or any other charity out there, if you've got the capacity, we could, the way I see it, own and operate just about any kind of business, and probably should as well. So there's a lot of things we're looking at. There's a lot of things we couldn't afford to do, and I think in some of those other new structures, there's a very intelligent attorney here I met today who has created the law on those kinds of things and how to get the best leverage with the best structure. And I'm no expert in that, but I do believe that those lines really need to be blurred. I think charities, 501s can be doing a lot more than they're currently doing structure-wise, and we're going to be.
And on the flip side of that, I think a lot of multinational companies or traditional corporations think they have to have a foundation to do good. They think they have to, it's this whole concept of like corporate philanthropy, it's actually becoming more and more outdated because you can actually own the impact that you're making. You can actually say, we're going to commit to a social or environmental purpose and make a profit at the same time under the same structure. And that's this B Corp model that Nick mentioned. This whole new incredible, I'm so sold out to it because it really encompasses this holistic approach to doing business and making impact. So it's benefit corporation model, and I just encourage you to look it up. We'll talk about it more. And I have this amazing B Corp handbook too I can tell you about too. So there's just this model now that's saying you can make money and make impact under the same umbrella. So.
Yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit about the B Corps because it's such a great idea, right? Yeah, B Corp. What is that? Public benefit corporation. So how do you?
Well, it's actually different because the B Corp is the association.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
And then which is a distinction that a lot of people. I didn't mean to cut you off, but so a B Corp is an organization. We're also a B Corp, and it's fantastic. And it's mostly about something that it's an organization that you join, and then you share the transparency of your business, and you commit to certain goals, and you commit to certain environmental and social goals. So, but at the end of the day, it's a network, it's an association, so it doesn't actually change the legal structure of your business. Whereas a benefit corporation, and I've forgotten how many states you can actually do this in.
31, DC, and the country of Italy.
Right. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Is actually attempting to change the legal structure of the business to make a mission-driven organization a part of the actual guts of the company itself. And I hope, and we're going to discuss this a little bit later in some of these other panels. But anyway,
I'd like to bring up one last legal structure, which our keynote will talk about later, which is the L3C. So
similar, yeah.
And he will be speaking more about that. But just so everyone knows, so we've discussed social enterprise, B Corps, public benefit corporations, L3Cs. So now everyone kind of understands a little bit about, what are these, the legal structures and ideas that you can have going forward as a corporation.
Yeah. And actually, we have Scott Cooper in the back. You want to check out Medji Tours back there. They're a B Corp, certified B Corp. And are you all familiar with that model? Can I just see, are people sort of familiar with it?
Who's heard of B
Who's heard of it? You can talk to Scott more about it. He's full-fledged, like incorporating this model, making money, changing people, creating impact. We've got Dirk Samsell in the audience too. He's understands the legal entity model of it a lot too, of actually how you in your bylaws when you're incorporating state your public mission, how you're actually going to create impact. So you can talk to these guys too about the model more.
And who else is familiar with some of these other models, benefit corps and L3Cs, and so it's still a relatively new concept. So we can have some fun getting into that. Okay, so. We don't get to get into necessarily the legal structure, but it's interesting to hear from you guys. Again, we sort of said that it's kind of self-evident that it doesn't make any sense that we should separate the idea of a mission from the idea of making a profit. But at the end of the day, you still have people coming along as well. I want to see the numbers. I want to see how this actually is going to pay off in some manner financially, and we at least aspire to the idea that this isn't about a trade-off. This isn't about that, as you said in the beginning, I want to be able to do something good with my company. I want to be able to address some kind of human need or environmental need or whatever, and not have this be a trade-off in terms of my own salary and my own financial well-being and so on and so forth. Are you guys seeing that start to happen? Are you guys feeling like, in your own enterprises, you still feel like you're making that compromise, or have you? Do you have a vision that compromise will start to drift away with what you're doing?
Well, ours is a little different because we're on the nonprofit side already, and we're trying to do some things that feel more or look more like for-profit entities, and so we've structured our additional 501c3 for our store, which I'll talk a little bit about. That it's actually set up by the IRS as a related organization. So it means that if there's anything that in the nonprofit structure that actually looks like a profit, the net, if you will, is going to transfer to the related organization, which is our actual service provider organization. And so, not very exciting in its what it is, but we run a thrift store, which a lot of charities do. And I think what's different about ours and why it works and why it's exciting and why it's actually throwing off a tremendous profit for us right now. It goes back to the entrepreneurial spirit inside of how and why we started it, and how we involved other entrepreneur types and finance folks in the founding of it. And so we structured that as a related organization, and we don't see any kind of issues that come up with that whatsoever. I mean, it's a separate set of books, it's a separate set of staff, and so forth. And what's also great about it is we lend a lot of our fixed cost administrative and even fundraising side from Place of Hope over to Treasures for Hope, which is the operating company for the store, which is then a related organization providing funding to Villages of Hope, which is another company taking care of kids who age out of foster care. So it's actually, the scaling has helped us a lot in terms of costs and so forth, keeping the administrative overhead down.
So by creating those multiple different structures and so on, it's almost like you've created kind of a series of partnerships between these different types of organizations to drive the overall success of the mission.
Right. Still overseen by one executive director, me, and a core team, but also the same board of directors. But then we don't have to have the additional layers of administrative oversight at each company. And it, again, it's structured as a related. So if there is a quote net, which there's never really, there's a net that's going to provide to help operating. And for us, in just finished third year of operations of this particular store, it's throwing off nearly 50% of the operating need for an entire charity, Villages of Hope, to operate with otherwise homeless youth. So 50% is no longer us just asking the community for it. It's coming from if you will, a for-profit looking structure. So
Interesting. Julie, I'd be curious, from your own experience, but also for, with some of the clients that you work with, some of the companies that you're talking to, just tell us a little bit about, this dialogue that we're having right now. I'm guessing that you have something similar with some of the clients that you're working with in terms of helping them, figure out how they can take this mission, make it something that's the core to what their business is all about, the challenges that represents, this feeling that some people have that there's a trade-off. What kind of conversations are you having with clients? Is there anything you can share with us?
Yeah. Actually, I can tell you a story.
Yeah, tell us the story.
One of my first clients was actually down in Miami, this amazing company called WorkSquare, and they are one of South Florida's first certified B Corps, which again is part of this model B Corp. They, their whole purpose is to employ people who need a second chance. So they work with ex-convicts, people who have come here maybe people who don't speak English that well, people who just kind of have been down and out and need some job training, some skills, some resume building. So it's actually started by a Harvard MBA, and she was from Miami, and she'd go home on breaks and see, a lot of us have seen here in Palm Beach County, people hanging out in the parking lots and Publix at 5 in the morning, just waiting to get picked up for work. And she thought there has to be a way to really empower these people and provide jobs. And so she started networking with the big hotels in Miami, a lot of food service providers, and started offering jobs. And so, I think the model could have been very easily, for her, could have been, nonprofit, I should raise a lot of money, but I think she was thinking, I'm getting my MBA, how can I actually create some money and grow this economy by empowering people? And so they were one of my first clients, and this really cool story was a man, the day I interviewed him, the first thing he said to me was, today I paid my rent for the first time in 25 years. And that's because he had been in prison for 25 years. And the day I spoke with him was the first day in 25 years he had paid his rent. And that WorkSquare had helped him get a job, after being in prison and feeling like he had no second chance. And so this whole story emerged of WorkSquare wasn't just a hiring placement agency, they were a new beginning. And that brand emerged for them, and this story and so she now has, through creating this company, WorkSquare, has gone on to launch 3 other, I think now they're on their second franchise model of this type of company, and and she had moved to Tel Aviv and started this model. So I feel like there's really this potential to see, and I think what Place of Hope does, by the way, is so awesome. The fact that got this business perspective, because I think, at least for me in nonprofit, I got lost in nonprofit with grant writing. I got so burnt out. I used to be in nonprofit, and that was exhausting to me, always asking for money. And so I think if there's a way to bring these worlds together, it's the most powerful place. So I've seen it work. It's slowly but surely companies realizing you can have impact and see a positive impact on your bottom line.
And this is great. This is a really great story. It's a great illustration of success. And I'm curious, that example specifically, but then perhaps if you guys have some ideas as well to this question, how does she measure success, right? You've got all the traditional models. That's pretty straightforward. Are we making money or are we not? But, you know, I'm guessing she must be, there's a vague, oh, I feel really good about this, and I'm hearing these stories, and there's good things happening, and that's success. But does somebody like that want to take a little bit further and say, well, we're reaching X number of people, we're placing this number of people, and setting, you know, goals and aspirations, and saying we're not a success until we do X, Y, and Z? Does that kind of language and idea come into play?
Absolutely. I mean, and I think we have to now. We have so many challenges. We have, you know, environmental challenges. We have to not only see business as a way to make money, but also to solve some of these crazy challenges our world's facing. And some of that's unemployment. Like for her, it was unemployment and people being exploited in Miami, you know, and even human trafficking coming into that. Like we have, so success can be measured by saying we're employing this a number of people, or we're reducing environmental footprints in a certain way. Like, success can be measured across a variety of, and that's a whole conversation too, really. There's a whole movement too to change GDP to like the global happiness indicator. There's this whole other movement too, like how do we measure, you know, on a global scale success, you know, so.
GPI.
Is that what it's called, global?
There were several.
There's a lot now.
Googling,
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It is.
Global Progress Indicator or something.
Yeah, and
like
there's
that.
a global happiness one that
Yeah,
you're
with
using.
Bhutan. It's
Yeah.
really cool. It's worth Googling. You guys, what about measuring success?
Well, for us, we had 3 tenets to our first social enterprise, and I'm not really sure of the exact order, but the 3 tenets still exist, and that was, 1, we wanted to employ our youth that live at Villages of Hope, otherwise homeless or at-risk youth who've aged out of foster care. We wanted to employ them, not just because having a job is great, but you need to learn how to work if you're going to be successful. So we wanted to actually teach our kids about how to work and how to be successful so that they can take it from there. And so we're doing a lot of that. And the other was just the branding of the charity as a whole. When you walk into our charity store, you get a good feel for, and there's a lot of charity stores you walk into, you don't really realize. You might be getting a bargain or getting something cool that you're buying from somebody else that gave it to the charity. You might even know it's charitable, but you don't really know what you're supporting. When you walk into ours, you clearly know that you're supporting local foster children and aged out youth. And so, and then the third was, you know, make a profit to help run the organization. We're going to carry that into our second social enterprise, but we've got a lot of examples. We have kids that were in foster care who, how are we doing, skipping out? Who were in foster care, who were with us, who worked in our store, who learned how to work, who have gone on to college, and we have one young man in particular who has bought himself a house through Habitat for Humanity, and he now has bridged over. He's gotten his first college degree. He's working on his second right now while he's still, you know, under our net, if you will, and now he's also working for us full-time at Place of Hope, running our entire computer system, which is just amazing. And so there's other stories like that, and there's going to be a lot more as we scale this thing bigger. So,
awesome. I'd like to jump in on this because a couple weeks ago I went back to my alma mater, NYU, and we had a keynote speaker for Social Impact Week up there, and he was the CEO of a major coffee corporation, Nespresso USA. And I asked him this question. I looked him in the eye and I said, Guillaume, how do you measure impact? You know, how many in the boardroom? How many dollars of profit is equal to like X units of impact? And what he honestly said was that you can't break it down to just something that simple, right? We can't just break it down to these traditional metrics of just finance. There's a holistic grade, and it's more than just a vague feeling of happiness. From a business perspective, you know, how is your impact helping others? What are the standards that you're setting? How is it? In terms of marketing, like how is the word getting out there? Who is getting involved with it? You know, Nespresso is lucky because of their mission. They've got people like George Clooney on their side, you know, who can really get the word out. But because of that, and because of their social enterprise and their social impact, he believes that that's the reason why all their farmers stick with them. So you know, there's this major coffee company. They go to Costa Rica, et cetera, and they employ these farmers. And there's no long-term contracts with these guys. These guys are free to leave any year and sell their coffee to a competitor. However, they have a 97% retention rate because these farmers know that by like being part of something better than themselves and being a part of something that's like greater than them, that not only will they make money, but they're impacting the world too. So it's that kind of like viral effect. I think that's a huge aspect of, what is this holistic grade? I think there should be some sort of like viral effect as well.
Yeah. And actually, with the B Corp model too, measurement of success is really laid out for you, which is another reason why I love this model. For example, the B Corp model is a part of it is about measuring the way you empower your workers and then way like the internal governance structure. And so they've actually measured like the things that the B Corp model is about. It could be just providing higher wages or great maternity leave, like really empowering employees. That turns into dollars. And actually also, when employees are bought into mission, there's a higher retention rate too. So there are dollar numbers associated with some of these really tangible things that you can do in your corporation. Whether that's like one B Corp I love, they have like this happiness like team on their as part of their staff, and they bring like just fun to work. And I mean that keeps people engaged. And there can be dollar signs connected to that because people stay longer, they love what they do, they like each other. So there really are these tangible results, I think, as you implement sustainability. I say sustainability as this like big term, like sustaining people who work for you, owning your supply chains, and I mean across the gamut of that, there really are tangible dollar signs, and that's why companies are. I mean, Ben and Jerry's, Etsy, Method, Patagonia are some of these big B Corp names. I mean, they're business people. They're smart people trying to make money. Like Ben and Jerry's is making some money. And so, but they also know that by making some of these strategic choices, they're engaging the world and creating this long-term impact for generations to come. So
I would say also from the nonprofit perspective, what we've seen and what we're seeing is that everybody likes sustainability. Grant makers, again in the nonprofit world, grant makers, foundations, others, even companies that are giving philanthropically, they like sustainability. And so where I first thought when we put this business plan together that people were going to think we were nuts because there was debt included in it and so forth, we had several foundations, big ones in this community that really helped us buy down that original mortgage that made this thing even work cash flow wise. And there's more that are still coming, and they're lining up for the next one too that we're getting ready to do. And so everybody wants sustainability. They want, there's the traditional model out there where we grant write and we do this and we ask, and we still do plenty of that, by the way.
Yeah.
But this is just a whole new model, and they're interested in investing in it on the nonprofit side too.
I think what's interesting too is that today, sustainability means more than just green. Like a lot of people hear sustainability and you think of a tree. Right. It's more than that. Like yes, you can evaluate yourself on the environmental aspects. What are your carbon offsets or whatever, et cetera. Your social, like you mentioned, governance, things of that nature. But also it's like how are you creating value and sharing those values with the others around you and impacting your community. And I think that's very important.
That's true. All three of you guys just made some terrific points, and I'm kind of going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to hopefully bring you guys in. So start thinking about what you might want to ask, and also do we have a time check or anything to worry about?
Yeah, we have 5 minutes.
So all right, let's get this going fast then. I'm going to scrap my last question, let you guys go. But I wanted to just echo partly Julie's point and then a little bit of what you guys said, and I wish that I had a bunch of this stuff off the top of my head because we write about this all the time. It's that at the end of the day, this is meant to be good for business. This is meant to have a good financial payoff for you somewhere down the line. Now, sometimes thinking about this stuff, we'll call it sustainability, social issues, environmental, whatever, it might have a short-term cost. It might mean, a short-term extra effort or something like that. But the whole point is that this is meant to, at least in the long term, pay off financially as well. And there's study after study that Julie just started getting into that shows this, particularly employee retention is probably the first and easiest one to get into. I mean, energy is another really easy one because you can just measure that. You save electricity, you save money. Recruitment, folks would much rather work for a company that they feel good about than just some company that they don't, obviously, right? This is actually measurable and demonstrable. So given that we don't have a ton of time, who wants to go first? Otherwise, I'm happy to keep on yakking.
So we're opening it up for Q&A? Is that?
Yeah.
Or did you mean us? Or
I thought you had 5 minutes for the whole thing or 5 minutes for
no, we have 5 minutes for us.
All right.
Yes.
Never mind. In that case, no questions yet. So here's a quick one. Can this sort of philosophy that we're talking about, this social enterprise concept, this idea that that a mission share organization is ultimately good for the organization, and so on. Everything that we've talking about, is that really enough to quote address our big sustainability challenges, or is there still a role for the traditional nonprofit, perhaps, in certain instances?
There's still a role for them.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I think it's going to take everybody. It's going to take all players. It's going to take government. It's going to take government to get involved in this conversation more too. Florida just adopted, by the way, the benefit corporation model 2 years ago. But we've been slow to catch on to it. We've been slow for companies to adopt it. There's still a lot of room. So we have to have all the models at the same time, kind of growing and emerging together. And you don't have to take on one model and think that that's all you can be. I mean, like we've discussed here. I mean, you can really incorporate these practices into any kind of model you already have. So yeah, I think it's going to take all hands on board. I mean, there's a lot of challenges, and we have to all be part of the same team, even with different structures.
For the nonprofit, I mean, I'm sure there's examples out there of nonprofits that are running major enterprises, and maybe that's even their sole source of income. For us, it's right now a small part. Again, we're getting ready to launch a secondary one. But I think it's a big picture piece. So there's real revenue, and we can look at it and use it and apply it, and it's a good percentage of our operating budget for one of our companies. But we're always probably going to be diversified into the traditional model, the regular fundraising model, the grant writing. But again, we're going to ride this wave for a little while of interest in the philanthropic community to invest in things that work, especially if you can show that it's working. And that's why we're already lining up to do this next one. And we have some interest from the philanthropic community, but we'll always be out there with the traditional fundraisers and direct mail campaigns and all that good stuff too.
Yeah, and as I mentioned to begin with, I think there's definitely a role for the nonprofit. There's a role for the for-profit, but I'm just so excited to see that this hybrid model is gaining momentum. I mean, and I think what's important is that for all of us, no matter what, there has to be some sort of financial, like, long-term sustainability. Like, because we've seen examples of people giving like huge amounts to charities, and then it just gets like sucked into a black hole. Mm-hmm. So that's what's so cool about what Place of Hope is doing. There's self-supporting, there's accountability, there's that pressure of that entrepreneurial mindset. They're running a lean organization, and just so cool. And the same for you, Julie. I've got a lot of admiration for you both. There's
other great examples just in this community. Look at what the Lord's Place does with even with Cafe Joshua, the way they have the food here today. And there's some great examples just in this community alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And accountability, that word you just said, is huge. Mm-hmm. I was going to say that. I think that's what makes your model work. If you actually can commit to some metrics, you can actually say, this is how we assess success. This is how we know we're creating impact. Whether it's the B Corp model or you've got a great nonprofit strategy in that. I mean, it's not enough to say you're doing good. It's not enough just to recycle it and say that's it. It's really not enough anymore. We have to own it. We have to come together and own the responsibility of our supply chains and our human resources. And if you can you have to demonstrate that with metrics. I just want to make that point. Like, that's huge for the consumer as well, because we're not buying into it anymore that you're just doing good, you're just doing green because it's on your website. As a storyteller, I can tell you that's true. You have to have facts behind it. So
that's good. So now I'm told it's officially time for Q&A. So I want to give you guys the opportunity. Right over here.
I've got a question for Charles. I know, Charles, you talked about some of the volatility in traditional fundraising. Charles, you talked about the volatility from year to year in traditional fundraising that nonprofits experience, and it seems like earned revenue can be a strategy to kind of hedge against that. It's also a strategy for growth. Can you talk about, in the programs where you've utilized your earned revenue, has that allowed you to grow from year to year, whereas traditional types are still struggling?
For us, it's a little bit complex in that our overall organization, Place of Hope, birthed Villages of Hope, which is a different sort of piece of the system, if you will, for the aged out youth. And there's not a ton of interest and money out there for the kids once they turn 18. It's a little bit different. There's some, and so for us, Place of Hope became like a support organization for Villages of Hope for a long time. So our general fundraising was offsetting operations there. So for us, it was let's catch up and get some of that off the book, some of that dependency on Place of Hope's overall efforts. And so that was a big part of growth for us. Like I said, right now it's about 50% of operating revenue. And it's also allowed us, because of that, it's freed up the ability for us to replicate the model down in Boca already. And so And now we've just gone through a site plan, a development order with the county where we have now approval to build 66 more units of transitional housing for aged out youth, which is going to be huge. Now we've got to raise that money, and we're going to do it through a myriad of ways, but we can now at least look to do that because this operating revenue that it's providing through Treasures for Hope is significant and only growing. I'm only hammered at this point, or held up at this point by square footage, and we're working on that. You're going to help me with that. So we need, there's more we can do, but square footage concerns, So.
That are being developed for measuring success or impact, where everybody could get on a standard for business owners would understand?
A good question.
Yeah.
A national
A
standard.
national standard. I've been harping on it. I think it's the B Corp model. This model, when you decide, and here's the nitty gritty of it, just in a minute. It's a 200-part question, or 200 point system, and you're audited on your environmental, your community, your worker, and your governance structure. It's really like an audit. Like my little company, View Storytelling, I'm a one-person company right now. I just finished it, and it takes time. These questions are hard and complex. Like questions like the environmental section, for example. How do you measure your environmental outputs? So I had to think about as a small business owner how I measure my environmental output, and in the worker section, how do you engage employees, or how do you hire or work with people who are marginalized in any way? I mean, it really makes you go through every level of your business, and it's contextualized now too. So I don't know what kind of business you're in, but if like for example, Green Mountain Power, Vermont's utility company, Vermont's main utility provider, they're a huge company with a ton of output. They just went through it. And my little company, one person went through it too. And they've contextualized the questions based on who you are, the kind of industry you're in. And it's really becoming this standardized format because it's a holistic approach. It's not just your environmental, it's not just your social. It's a holistic approach to everything you do. And it's been recognized, I mean, across the board by some of the top press and some of the top business leaders. It's really got this credibility among it. It's globally used as well. So I would say look into the B Corp model. If you're looking to actually have accountability in your sustainability performance, check it out. It's great. And it's free.
Yeah, and this is also a very good book,
And this
Ryan
B Corp
Honeyman's
handbook,
book.
yeah.
Two other things that are worth pointing out: Global Reporting Initiative,
Yeah.
GRI,
And the CDP.
and then and also SASB, the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, are both working on. Those are typically associated with major corporations, not as much small entrepreneurs, but those are also two things worth looking at.
Yeah.
On top of the GRI and SASB, there's also something called the CDP, which was like a UN
CDP, yeah,
initiative,
exactly,
so the Carbon Disclosure Project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. Question right here, and then we'll go back there. Yeah.
A public benefit corporation?
One of our legal friends hopefully can come up on stage and clarify that a little bit better later on in the other panel. But the quick difference is a B Corp is, as Julie described it, it's an association that you can join. You take an audit, they audit you. It goes through a whole 9 yards, and you have to demonstrate all of these different metrics and things that you're committed to. It does not, however, alter your actual legal structure in any way. So any type of corporation can technically be a B Corp. It gets complicated if you're a publicly traded company.
Yeah.
Although that's now been done. Plum Organics, which was acquired by Campbell Soup, is a B Corporation, and Etsy is now a publicly traded B Corp. Don't ask me about the legal nuance behind that, but that's what a B Corp is. And then a benefit corp is actually a different legal structure. Which I couldn't tell you exactly why it's sort of an experiment at this point, I think. It's as Alex said, it's legal in now 31 states, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's meant to be an actual different type of company legally, so somewhere between a C Corp and a nonprofit.
Yeah. As a benefit corporation, as your model, you're supposed to report to your board on your impact. So you don't just report on like numbers. You're actually going to them and saying how's the mission being implemented. So and you have to put in your bylaws specifically what you're doing, but you should talk to this guy, Dirk Samsell over here. He's a lawyer and he knows what he's talking about with that model. He's part of the
Yeah.
Three clearing,
So
okay.
we'll get into it.
Yeah.
One question right back here. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Terrence, and I'm a student here at Palm Beach Atlantic University. And I was wondering, what can we do as Palm Beach Atlantic University students and college students in general to get involved in social enterprise? And what can our business school as well do in order for us to know more about social enterprise and all these new models?
Well, I'd like to jump on that because you did the great first step by volunteering here today at this conference. So that was a great first step. And then after that, we're going to create a directory. So everyone who's here, we have your name, email. We're going to create like an internal directory, keep people in the loop, let people know what's happening in the community, in the Tri-County area. So that way, if people want to be involved further, they can. A lot of our speakers today, I'm sure, would welcome it if you reached out to them. That's what they're here for. They're here because they believe in everything we're talking about. So reach out to them, ask them how can they get involved, and then just try to get involved with some other like organizations. There's Net Impact. There's a bunch of other organizations that we can talk about throughout the day who would love to have you involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Net Impact is a particularly good one. That's kind of how I got into this stuff back in the day when I was a student. Great organization, costs $20 to join or something. They have meetings all over, all over the place. I'm sure there's an active chapter around here.
Hi, my name is Dr. Christopher No. I do a lot of work with for-profit, nonprofit who want to do social good. My question is, as we're building an ecosystem going forward, what are your thoughts? Like in Europe, they have social enterprise chambers of commerce and working with traditional chambers. I do a lot of speaking with them. Some get it, some may not. What are your thoughts about a social enterprise chamber of commerce and creating that ecosystem of support for social good entities?
They do exist. I was just talking to this gentleman yesterday about it, and I forgot the name of his organization. American Sustainable Business Council. One that's on a national level. There are local sustainable chambers of commerce. There's one in San Francisco. I don't know what's active out here. There might be. So it's definitely happening, and it's a terrific idea. It's also a terrific idea to influence the traditional Chamber of Commerce and get involved and try to demonstrate this kind of value there as well.
There's also the Social Enterprise Alliance, which is a nationwide thing, where we have a chapter in Tampa, and we're going to be starting a chapter down here. There's also the mission hubs, so the impact investing mission hubs. They're all over. There's one actually in the works being planned for Miami, and we've been in talks with them to build one here in Palm Beach. That's an international organization, thousands of members.
There's also the conscious capitalism movement.
Yes.
And there's a South Florida conscious capitalism group that's emerging right now. My dear friend Nola's here today. She'll tell you more about that. And so that's really like this all-encompassing sort of informal chamber, I guess it could become in a sense, of conscious companies of all kinds that just to get together and share resources. So.
Mm-hmm. Who's next? If no one raises their hand, I'll keep talking. Since we're a little quiet, tell us, we got a few minutes left. We were, Dirk, you got a question?
Yeah.
All right, go.
For the gentleman with the, hi. For the gentleman with the nonprofit, I was wondering if you could, since we've talked a little bit about the for-profit legal structures, the L3C and corporation and benefit corporation, it's interesting to hear about how you can actually do social entrepreneurship within a nonprofit. You get into this, so I'm an advocate, obviously, for the benefit corporation legal entity, and so I talk a lot about that, but you can do a lot of this through a nonprofit vehicle, so I think it's important for people to know and hear about how that's possible. I don't know if you can talk about how you've structured maybe one of those. It's important to...
Yeah, the current one for us was more just to keep, more like a holdings company, to keep the real estate and the assets separate from the main operating company, the social service. But it was also structured as a not-for-profit as well, and again, a little bit differently set up as a related organization for a direct service provider organization. So really, I mean, there's nothing new about that. I just think that when you dig into how we did ours is where kind of the excitement, if you will. I'm kind of a nerd, so if you like that kind of thing. I mean, the way we structure our real estate acquisition, the way we own a company next door to us, that we own the real estate for an auto body shop, that we have nothing to do with the auto body world. We're just simply he's our tenant. But the structure of this deal was put together so well that, I mean, they're paying probably 30% more of our monthly mortgage payment just by them being there. And it pretty much takes care of the building by himself and so forth. So you look at, and there was a couple other pieces like that tied to the real estate. So that's where the excitement for ours came in. Also how we financed it against some of our endowment to get a very, very low rate. And also brought in some foundations at the beginning to actually buy down that original mortgage, because it was not an inexpensive purchase, but it's all leveraged very well. Cash flow is beautiful on it, and again, it's putting off right now 50% of the operating budget of the related organization. So we're looking to do more of those, and I think people are excited about that too, just general givers, because if they want to give to something, whether it's their couch or their old clothing or a cash donation, they want to do it where there's health, and we can show the health on our books, and also the employment of our kids that are right in there. So the structure of it's nothing all that, the legal structure of it's nothing all that exciting. It's just more about how we put the deal together, if you will. So.
Terrific. We've got 2 minutes left, I'm told, so in 30 seconds or less, we've been asked to assess the, quote, state of social enterprise. In a nutshell, where are we? 30 seconds or less. Just say.
No pressure. I think it's emerging. It's growing. Millennials, this next generation wants this. We want impact in business. We want to see the products we're buying having a purpose. I think it's growing. It's emerging. We have a lot to do. But I think if you're considering entrepreneurship out there, if you're a student and you're considering this model, I mean, I would just say really dive into how can you create a lasting legacy, create an impact, even change lives through business, through the model you choose.
Alex, 15 seconds or less.
I think it's growing. I think it's a global movement. We're bringing it here to South Florida. That's the purpose of this conference. It's the only conference that happens south of the Carolinas, and there may be only 6 or 7 that happen in the country, maybe 10 in the world. So, I think it's definitely growing, and I'm just glad that all of you are here to be a part of it.
Thoughts?
I'm no millennial, but I like buying products where there's socially responsible companies, and I think that's just definitely the way of the future. And I also think from the nonprofit perspective that we can do things, all of us in the nonprofit world can do things that are more business-oriented for the purposes of generating revenue, and I think that needs to grow, and I think will as well. I think there's more groups looking at it. So,
well, thanks very much, folks. Could we get a little round of applause for our panelists?